Agent Morris with the NSA.
There is something real here.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General and some of which to the intelligence committees. I actually had people with the first-hand knowledge provide a protected disclosure to the Inspector General. Biologics came to some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Those could represent exquisite new adversary technology.
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
The government is covering up some level of its knowledge and understanding about what some of those things are.
The Sol Foundation, which just announced a new initiative for UFO research and policy.
It's nuts, man. I mean, we're just small-town buds who saw a UFO in the woods. I mean, now we're hanging out with the government.
Wow. What floor were you guys on?
Hey everybody, welcome aboard. This is Smiles Lewis. It's another live edition of Anomaly-NOW, straight out of Austin, Texas. This is the weekly live news media roundup for the 501c3 nonprofit Anomaly Archives, aka Scientific Anomaly Institute. It is Wednesday, April 17th, 2024, and I'm your host. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching this live or in the replay, audio or video. Thank you for joining us. Do all the usual, like, subscribe, smash the bell, whatever, all those things. We need your help. So this week we've got a real quick roundup of some interesting things. Last week I was talking a lot about the criticism of the AARO report, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, and their mandated report. And boy, yeah, it's a stinker. We covered others' critique of that, and sure enough, there is a new critique out by Christopher Mellon. You might recognize that name. Fairly notable individual who spent nearly 20 years in the U.S. intelligence community, including serving as the Minority Staff Director of the Senate Intelligence Committee and the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence. He actively participates in Harvard's Galileo project, and in his free time works to raise awareness regarding the UAP issue and its implications for national security. That's his bio over at thedebrief.org, where there is a very long, comprehensive, scathing expose on this terrible report. I last week was saying I was 50-50 on it, but I think Christopher Mellon really captures in painstaking detail just how bad this thing is. And I will say Christopher Mellon, as nice a guy as I hear he is, and as much of a player as he is with those credentials, he was very much, to my knowledge, a surprise guest, so to speak, a surprise novice emerging on the UFO UAP scene with the rise of Tom DeLonge's TTSA, To the Stars Academy, and its rollout in late 2017 that then was followed by the New York Times articles that have changed the landscape ever since. And he's apparently one of the people who helped spirit these now infamous UAP videos from the Navy pilots that so many people have seen, that has become the new face of what UFOs represent. This military industrial complex approach to the threat of UAPs and aviation safety. But as much as I might be suspicious of him because of that and his intelligence background, I've always been willing to believe that he has a legitimate interest in this and that he's not necessarily some knowing part of a disinfo campaign. Who knows? But I definitely want to read from some of this report. I think it's worth your time and effort. Like I say, it's very long. And he points out some things that I was definitely not aware of. And there's so much more to dig into. But early on, he says this new report is itself anomalous for several reasons. First, whoever heard of a government report being submitted months before it was due, especially one so rife with embarrassing errors and desperate need of additional fact-checking and revision? Was AARO Director Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick rushing to get the report out the door before departing, perhaps to ensure that his successor could not revise or reverse some of the report's conclusions? As I was saying in the last week's show, and as others like Micah Hanks have rightfully said, we can hope that the volume 2 of this report may correct the errors, so many that there are in this report. But again, Chris Mellon over at the Debrief goes on to say, second, this appears to be the first AARO report submitted to Congress that the Director of National Intelligence, DNI, did not sign off on. I don't know why, but Avril Haines and her office were quite right not to in this case, having spared themselves considerable embarrassment in the process. Third, this is the most error-ridden and unsatisfactory government report I can recall reading during or after decades of government service. Again, Christopher Mellon being an old hat at the intelligence community scene in government. He later goes on to say another irregularity worth noting is the fact that before its release, Department of Defense DoD Public Affairs sponsored a closed-door pre-brief on the report's findings for a select group of press outlets on an invitation-only basis. Outlets like The Debrief, which closely follow the UAP issue, were excluded. No surprise there, folks. Following the report's release, most of the news agencies that had participated in the pre-brief went on to publish articles that uncritically parroted the report's findings. Moreover, they seem to have done so without consulting any of the scholars or experts who have studied and written extensively on this topic, as would normally be the case in another field. What about consulting the famous scientist, author, venture capitalist, and UAP expert, Dr. Jacques Vallée, who worked with Air Force astronomer Dr. J. Allen Hynek on Project Blue Book and lived much of the history this UAP report purports to cover? And last week, I was also reading from Volume 5 of Jacques Vallée's Forbidden Science journals. Every one of those volumes of his journals is worth diving into. You will find such a wealth of notes and get a real sense of how the history of this phenomena has unfolded from his perspective. The article goes on, neither AARO nor the press bothered to speak with him. How about Robert Powell from Austin, Texas, director of the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies and author of the outstanding new book, UFOs, A Scientist Explains What We Know and Don't Know? Or Professor Alexander Wendt at the Ohio State University. I was really glad to see Mr. Mellon putting Alexander Wendt, W-E-N-D-T, in his notes here. He's obviously throwing out a lot of book references for folks. Hopefully some press will latch onto these and educate themselves. I'm sure these and many other authors and scholars would have been happy to assist AARO or the press had they been contacted. That America's leading press outlets missed the problems and issues identified below and failed to present an alternative perspective is itself typical of the stigmatized history of UAP press coverage since WW2. Those interested in the role of the press on the UAP topic may want to read Terry Hansen's provocative book, The Missing Times. Again, another great bibliographic reference there. A little further down in the article, Christopher Mellon goes on to say, one of the other concerns I have about press coverage of this report is the tendency to conflate the UAP topic generally with allegations the government has recovered off-world technology. The UAP issue is distinct and critically important regardless of the truth about allegations of recovered extraterrestrial non-human technology. Asking AARO to investigate that allegation was unfortunate, since a subordinate DoD or IC office finding its superiors innocent was never going to satisfy the critics anyway. Good point. In the meantime, Congress and the public deserve a great deal more transparency and clarity regarding U.S. government data on the UAP issues. Too many well-documented incidents are occurring at too many locations, a problem greatly exacerbated by the rise of sophisticated drone technologies. Here he's straying into this is a defense issue. And that's where I start going, well, he's not wrong. There are some significant defense issues at play here, as he goes on to say. If you don't think this is a serious issue, consider that just a few months ago, fighter aircraft were transferred from Langley Air Force Base in Virginia to Naval Air Station NAS Oceana after weeks of intrusions by unidentified drone-like craft. The Air Force seemed powerless to capture or deter these intruders and still has not been able to identify them. Similar incidents have been afflicting Navy warships and other bases around the country. If the Air Force can't defend its own bases, how can it defend the rest of our country? Don't we need to get on top of this sooner rather than later? As journalist Tyler Rogaway, incidentally a skeptic of ET theories, said in one of his many superb articles at the War Zone, quote, the gross inaction and the stigma surrounding unexplained aerial phenomena as a whole has led to what appears to be the paralyzation of the systems designed to protect us and our most critical military technologies, pointing to a, emphasis added, massive failure in U.S. intelligence, U.S. military intelligence. Yes, oxymorons aside. Again, just a little bit more from this article by Christopher Mellon over at The Debrief. In another breach of the explicit terms of the law, AARO failed to compile, itemize, and report on U.S. intelligence agency abuses on UAP. And he cites the chapter and verse. The AARO historical report was required to include a compilation and itemization of the key historical record of the involvement of the intelligence community with unidentified anomalous phenomena, including any efforts to obfuscate, manipulate public opinion, hide, or otherwise provide incorrect, unclassified, or classified information about UAP or related activities. Contrary to congressional direction, AARO completely omits entire agencies, NORAD, NSA, DIA, prior to 2009, CBP, etc., agencies with known investigations or activities relating to UAP, and also omits any discussion of, quote, any efforts to obfuscate or hide unclassified or classified information about UAP or related activities. AARO omits these agencies even when there are unclassified documents available on those agencies' records and investigations of UAP. And it goes on and on and on. Like I say, this is an incredibly long and detailed report. It has actually been added to, as noted at the bottom of the article, to even go into more detail about certain specific elements. So it's really worth your effort and time if you're into that kind of thing. One last thing related to these revelations, such as they are, not really, but something that came up that I was not very familiar with, but which is this Kona Blue, KONABLUE project. Victor, I think we have a link to the aaro.mil UAP records research. But there's also a thread over on, so yes, the website there has 3 drop-down menus that each have links to, I believe, the PowerPoints related to what they found regarding this Kona Blue project, which, as I understand it, was an effort to continue the OSAP, aka ATIP, Pentagon UFO program, which was actually, as we now know and have known for a few years, was more of a paranormal research effort that has been branded and marketed as a UFO UAP effort. Think Skinwalker Ranch and all the paranormal stuff happening there. Over at the UFO Updates Facebook group that I've long been a member of, a good friend Christian Lambright has commented about these documents and just this whole mess in general. OSAP was only the name of the DIA BAASS contract. It never evolved into ATIP. The term ATIP was a term Reed made up for his SAP letter, his SAP, according to Eric Davis. To refer to those working with Bigelow from mid-2007, the people he said were commissioned. It was this group of people and their UFO interests that Reed wanted but failed to roll into an SAP. ATIP was never an official program or operation, though we were all sold that idea in late 2017 to promote the belief that Lou Elizondo was the director of a UFO program housed at the Pentagon. For my part, this is Christian Lambright speaking, Lou was never officially in charge of anything. He was brought in by Stratton, following the orders of someone else, and then hooked up with Lukatsky. That implies that Lou would have answered or reported to either Stratton or Stratton's boss in this. At best, when OSAP was terminated, Lou remained as a point man to DOD for Bigelow's men to contact if need be. But whoever was behind having Stratton seek out Lou, and remember, Lou has said that he continued to work with help from the Navy and the CIA, is most likely the person or persons who managed to end the Reed-Bigelow efforts and are very probably why we're back to square one today. Now, I realize that's a lot of inside baseball for those who are just tangentially, interested in the UFO scene. Plus, as I've said, nowhere in the AARO report are references to the occupants. It's all presumed just tech and sightings and sensor data and presumed drones without any kind of intelligent occupant. And thus, we have no aspect of the contact phenomena, the very heart of why people are interested in UFOs, this idea that they might represent some sort of non-human intelligence, other than in the report talking about extraterrestrial hypotheses. So we'll move on from there to something completely different. And that is something Newsweek has begun carrying some interesting material. Over at Newsweek.com, we have this headline, Mystery as Underwater Anomaly Larger Than Texas Spotted Off African Coast. This is posted on April 12th. And the basics of it, the article says, a giant cluster of waves over 80 feet high and spanning 2,000 miles, an area larger than Texas, appeared to move through the ocean off the coast of Africa on April 10th in a journey that lasted about 24 hours before it vanished. Some online commentators said the formation could only have been created by something moving under the surface of the sea, making it a USO, unidentified submersible object, the ocean equivalent of a UFO. A graphic of the incident has been shared widely online and sparked numerous jokes and theories. Some suggest the anomaly shows the path of a giant underwater sea creature like the fictional Cthulhu. I can't believe I'm seeing the word Cthulhu, the H.P. Lovecraft creatures mythos in a Newsweek article that's not about gothic horror or a submerged alien craft. But Newsweek has learned that, in fact, they know for a fact, it proves nothing more than the fallibility of data after discovering that the anomaly was caused by a model error, quote unquote. The wave anomaly was picked up by Ventusky, a meteorological app run by the Czech company InMeteo, which allows users to observe weather patterns, winds, and waves using real-time data collected from respected international sources, including the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, a U.S. government agency. Further down in the article, and were you able, can we show that clip? There's the photo of it. Yes, there's the clip. And let's go big. So the article goes on to say an ex-user posted, quote, the only issue with this is that there are like 10,000 ships in that area at any given time. All of them would have sunk under 90 meter waves. 1010, it's a glitch in the system. Now Newsweek can confirm the skeptics were correct. Ventusky spokesperson David Prantle said in an email response on Friday, quote, it was a model error. Ventusky serves as a visualization platform that collects data from various sources. The error originated in the model itself, so it was also reflected in the visualization on our website. In this case, the model is from the German Meteorological Service, DWD, with whom we are in contact, and they have already resolved this error. Please note, quote unquote, please note that the model receives millions of data points from ships and buoys throughout the ocean. Problems can occur in such a large database. However, it may take time to determine the exact cause of the error. No kidding. Anyway, I just, again, when the word anomaly pops up in a mainstream news outlet that's not typically one that's covering UFOs and the paranormal, I take note. And a wave, something, an anomaly in the ocean, that huge. Oh, something else in the article that caught my attention. I think it's in one of the Twitter quotes. Is somebody references, oh, maybe it's that undersea US UFO manufacturing craft that's been leaked by the Reddit user that we've talked about in months past last year on a previous show. All right. Well, again, shifting gears entirely, let's head back to Austin. You know, Austin has this reputation of being a very weird place, and it should surprise no one that occasionally out of place animals, a small subset of Fortean phenomena, people interested in strange phenomena also, whether it be cryptozoology or whatnot, are often interested in the out of place animal concept. The idea of, you know, alligators in the sewers, kangaroos in out of place locations. Well, in this case, last Thursday in Austin's Zilker Park, where they just this weekend had the annual kite flying festival, there was a couple of emus running around. And to my knowledge, they have not yet identified the source of these animals. Obviously, there's not likely an anomalous aspect to this. I don't think that they were teleported there by aliens or even just the amazing mental psychic powers of emus to travel across the planet. No. It was probably, as there are so many in Texas, some exotic animal owner let them loose, or they got loose. Though one has to wonder, I mean, emus are not that unusual in Texas. There are a lot of farms, I believe, that raise them for a variety of products, we'll say. But yeah, thankfully the creatures were captured safely, and according to the Austin Animal Center, they are still looking for their owners. The officers who caught them worked together to corral the birds and capture them with a large net. The emus were then loaded onto the animal protection trucks and brought back to the shelter, where they were temporarily housed in outdoor dog kennels on the center's truck port. Well, what this immediately reminded me of is just how strange and how close a brush with this kind of thing I've had. I've never seen an emu except behind a fence line driving across Texas. But let me pull up here, Victor. I'm going to add. So back in, what was it? Yeah, back in, I think it was June of 2021 on nextdoor.com. Someone posted, is anyone missing a kangaroo? Yes, we just spotted one in the middle of Meadow Lee Drive traveling toward Congress. It then jumped off to the left, and we last saw it in the grass near the fence by some newer townhomes there. What on earth is a kangaroo doing here? And in fact, yeah, it apparently was somebody's pet that got loose. And you can kind of see a zoom in there. It's right over there, and I think this zoom is this. You can just kind of see it's in midair. I think at this point it's really hard to see. I'm sure. Oh wait, there. That's the one I'm trying to show you right there. But yeah, this is just around the corner, practically from my house in South Austin. This, as I say, was in I believe June of 2021. And of course, I was emailing Lauren Coleman, cryptozoologist, going, hey, you know, all those out of place animals and kangaroos in places they shouldn't be. But yes, lo and behold, it was somebody's pet that had escaped. Why somebody would have a kangaroo as a pet, I don't know, other than, yeah, they are kind of cute, I suppose, but they're wild animals, man. Well, with that, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you for tuning in. You can, of course, go over to our Flipboard, flipboard.com/@Anomaly Archives, and you can find even more links than I've covered here tonight. I guess I will mention, let's see, there is a blogger who I've been really enjoying his work. That's Tanner Boyle. he's got a Substack, and he's been posting a lot of great articles about the UFO phenomena from the kind of perspective that I really like, in terms of skeptical and an appreciation of the military and intelligence disinformation aspects, usefulness to those enterprises of things like the UFO phenomena and other belief-driven phenomena. And his latest is called Fear and Loathing at MUFON, Pennsylvania. And it's about his going to a MUFON conference there in Pennsylvania that's put on by, you guessed it, John Ventre, Ventre, who is infamous for having gone on a racist tirade some years ago and being slightly demoted, but not kicked out of the organization because, well, he donates a lot of money to the organization. And boy, you can get quite a feel for what it was like to be at this conference from Tanner's description. But Tanner's got some great stuff. He's got some podcasts that he's appeared on that you'll want to listen to. And also a recent appearance on Emily's Weird Reads podcast on YouTube. But I've posted links there, and you can just do a search for it there. But I think you'll enjoy that. And like I say, lots of other stuff over at the Flipboard. So thank you for joining us tonight, and see you on the flip side. Take care. Beware.